Hello again, chaps and chapettes. Welcome to another edition of the Guitar Geeks podcast. If you're a regular watcher, thank you once again for joining me for a lovely hour and a half so of guitar geek related chat. So today I am absolutely delighted to announce today's guest is Thom Pankhurst. Thom, welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. How are you doing today, my friend?
I'm not bad. I'm quite tired. I've been up most of the night tracking acoustic and trying to get mic placement exactly right. So that's been fun. I'm currently sat in my room that I do like music and things in, and I've built like a booth out of some blankets and some old dining chairs, and then put some really nice mics in it, and it sounds pretty good. Like I'm still not quite there, but it's getting there, like I've been spending most of the night just gradually moving a mic around so that it's exactly perfect, and it's very tedious but fun.
Go try and get like a little remote control car and just stick the mic on a remote control car and move it around that way.
Dude, you're a genius. You're a genius. I need to do that. Like that would make so much more sense. I could just have it on I could get a drone and just move it on a drone.
You just have to ignore the fans in the background.
When it comes to actually tracking, you turn the drone off and you mount. Oh, you could just mount the drone.
All that.
You catch it in midair and just like mount it to a mic stand, and then, dude, that's genius.
We are copywriting these ideas.
Yeah, I should make like a mic rig or something where you can they must exist anyway.
I'd imagine so.
But where you can incrementally move the mic.
I bet you that if there's going to be anybody that would have done it, it would have been the Germans, because the Germans would have been so Germanic. But we have to get this mic in the right direction.
Yeah.
They would have it in
the Uber mic technique. With the umlaut on the U as well, and they just move it around.
Nothing to do with the Bogner Uber shell.
No, unless they're miking up an Uber shell. So
it could work.
Yeah, there's merit to this. We can take it somewhere.
Oh, takes notes.
Yeah.
So for those who are listening and watching and are not aware of your presence, who are you and what do you do?
Well, as you said earlier, my name is Thom Pankhurst. I am a guitarist from the south of England, which you can probably tell by my accent in comparison to yours. And then, so I play guitar, or I used to primarily play guitar, and now I've taken on a few more roles, like sort of getting down, like really into that sort of production sort of side of things and engineering things, hence why I've been moving some mics around. But primarily a guitarist, and I release some of that self-indulgent guitar playing music where it's mostly lead based and instrumental, and so that's what I do, and I'm very fortunate to be able to do it, and that's me, that's what I do, and that's basically all I do as well.
I've noticed the more and more you talk to people nowadays, especially when you go to gigs or whether you're out and about or guitar shops or online, production now has become such a huge staple in a musician. Well, before you just go to a studio and they would produce everything, but now it's become such a pivotal role in being able to work from home, hasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I think everyone's got some semblance of a home studio now, and that's insane when you compare it to 20 years ago. Like I've got with like Get Good Drums or whatever, I've got like the sound of a really nicely mic'd up drum kit, and I can just bung that out, and it's like, oh, and you don't even need like amps anymore. Like but they actually sound good now as well, like if it's a software sim. So yeah, it's just insane. But yeah, the production thing is an endless rabbit hole to go down.
It is. I look back, and I was having to back up my laptop the other day, and I was using my portable hard drive, and I found some of my old like mixes from when I was really first started to experiment with doing guitar covers, and I was just listening. I was like, man, I really thought this sounded good at the time.
Yeah,
and I compare it to something now, it's just horrible.
I know the feeling. Yeah, you're like, there's so much 4K in this now, and like. Yeah, that sort of thing. You're like, oh wow, the reverb on the snare could be slightly different or whatever, and you just like, and then so that's like off-putting, because then you think in maybe 3 years time from now, you're going to look at everything that you think's good now and be like, that's rubbish.
It's an ever-changing game.
Yeah, it's just like nah.
So we'll bring it sort of to brass tacks. So where did the guitar side of you start to really originate from?
As in like when I started playing guitar, or
yeah, well, was there particular music that your parents would play, or that really sort of started to bring you into that world?
Sure. Well, my dad plays guitar. He is currently in a Pink Floyd tribute band.
Nice.
And they're pretty decent, and he pretty much nails most of the Dave Gilmour stuff, which is quite impressive. But don't tell him I said that, or he'll get an ego. But yeah, no, so my dad's always played guitar, but I didn't play guitar until I was like 15. And then I was a really angsty teenager. And so I got really into like Slipknot and Trivium and that sort of stuff where, it's all in the right hand, like horrible, like picking technique things. Not horrible, but, like aggressive picking technique.
Well, the monster down picking.
Yeah, so I had some revelations around that age as well. It's like I was learning all these Trivium songs, but like down picking all of it. And then I was like, oh wait, I can do all this stuff by purely down picking it. And I was like, what if I just upstroked it as well? And then you get like twice the speed, right? And then I was sort of like, oh yeah, this is great. So I went through that, and then I discovered Dream Theater when I was like 18, and no, 17, I think. And then that was it. I was like, John Petrucci is king. And I sort of went down the Petrucci rabbit hole and went through Rock Discipline and all of that stuff, and so heavily influenced by Dream Theater, I think, but also really like people like Jeff Beck, Steve Vai, just all the good best guitarists,
the instrumentalists.
Yeah, essentially. But then mostly now I don't really listen to instrumental music that much. I mostly listen to like pop stuff for production things.
I was speaking to John Connon about this when he was on the podcast, and Marty Ventura as well, who's a friend of Phil Dyer's, who's also put me in the direction of yourself. And it's like pop now is becoming such a fundamental, I think, for everybody to listen to, because it doesn't half lend your ear to, like, say, the production side of things. And even I've noticed that now when I listen to pop more, I'm like, what about if I incorporate that? And
yeah, exactly.
Underrated.
Yeah, completely. I think people are so dismissive of it, particularly in the guitar world, where they're like, it's not good because it's not shredded, or it's like that they don't know anything. They just keep playing the same 4 chords, and then they're just like face rolling their way across the keyboard. Yeah, but when you actually, if you take some time to understand some of the production aspects that are going on, or some of even the voicings of certain things and the way that things are layered, you realize that the 4-chord song you thought was a 4-chord song might not necessarily be as simple as those 4 power chord shapes with like that triad, whatever third is.
Yeah.
So it's not just that, they're voicing things in a really specific way, using inversions and things like that, so that you can give more room to certain aspects of the thing. And I think that's where that side of pop for me is really interesting, in addition to the way that they're mixing and approaching some of those production aspects. So that's what I find most interesting about Sigrid or someone like that. I love Sigrid, like really like the production on Sigrid's stuff. So
are you like in the sort of like, because Billie Eilish is obviously one of those ones that has massively taken off recently, and I think some of her production values has been incredibly good.
Yeah, I haven't gone on a deep dive with her. Yeah, I think I've listened to like 3 of her tracks. I'm sort of saving it for when I'm going to go down the Billie Eilish
the rabbit hole.
The production, because like I've watched a few videos of her, and her brother does all the production and things. I think
so. Yeah,
and they talk about the way they're layering things, and that's really interesting to me. And it's taking those things and seeing what you can do in like a for a guitar perspective sort of thing. So. Something to try out for anyone who is listening. Top tip number 1, have a go at if you're doing leads and things, try doubling them. Like vocal production on pop tracks, they'll sing exactly the same thing maybe 3 times, more than that, depending on the track. It's not just one track, and as guitarists we tend to lend ourselves to just one track, and so if you have a go at playing it in 3 different as tightly as you can, exactly the same as you can. But then potentially send one of those tracks to a reverb bus and only have the main one. So the main one that you want to hear is dry. The reverb comes entirely from the second track, and the delay is from the third track. So that there's like, essentially you're getting modulation within all of those things.
You can have so many different little nuances in every single little take. It's never going to be perfectly identical, but the little nuances do make it into...
Exactly. And it's one of those things that it makes it just a little bit more 3D. It's worth experimenting with. And if you're sat at home sort of going down potentially the rabbit hole, or you're not sure where to start with that. It's good.
It's a good tip. Like the biggest revelation I had was originally look back at some of these old covers. I would literally just do one guitar down the center. That was it. And then of course I started to discover like, stereo panning and then quad tracking and then layering. And that was I would say my big epiphany when I started to learn production. So where did your production sort of thing start? Did you start doing covers and then that was...
Sure. So yeah, previously to releasing my own music under my own name and things, I made a living out of doing the function scene in the UK. So I probably played someone's wedding. There's a good chance that I was out like every weekend, multiple days for like years. But so I've always kept an eye on that sort of stuff. The main reason I got into production actually was that when it came, so someone else mixed and did the production on my Lighthouse EP. My friend Rob, who lives in Salisbury, who's an excellent human being, and he was going to do Grow, which was my single that I released after that. And due to time constraints and things, like it sort of didn't work out like that. And I sort of just went, do you know what? I'm going to learn. Never mind. I'm just going to like learn how to mix. I'm going to learn everything I want. So that was essentially it. It was like, well, if I'm going to do it, I'm going to do it properly as well. Like there's no compromise here. So I downloaded a bunch of mix courses and things like that, and tried to get my head around everything as best I can. And like that, the Grow track that I did is like the first thing I've ever actually mixed. And I'm really proud of how that's come out. There's obviously things I do differently now, but I think it stands on its own 2 feet to some extent. Like it's not bad, Yeah.
There's always going to be something that you'll always listen about. Oh, I should have just changed that, or what if I boosted that? Or you're never going to be fully happy, are you?
I think if there's anyone listening who's interested, I'm not going to say what I would change, because then they'd be like, oh no, he hates the... I'm not going to say the thing I was just about to say, but like there is some things that I would change, but I'm not going to tell anyone what they are.
Oh yeah, he hates the 14 hertz frequency.
Right. Yeah, at 3 minutes and 42 seconds, he actually hates that little pop on the snare.
4 minutes 30 seconds, he plays a D minor 7 instead of... It's like,
I mean, all the playing, I know what I wanted, but like, it's more production. Yeah, exactly. So
doesn't matter where you go, there's always going to be haters.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, I should mention that in addition to doing this stuff, like over lockdown, I started doing the videos for GAK or GAC in Brighton. And the amount of hate that comes on those videos is ridiculous.
I think it's because a lot of the viewership probably think that they're trying to be like what Andertons, I guess have done. But I think there's guitar and PMT, there's and GAC, they've all now started to really utilize that web side of things, because they just know how much of a big of an audience it can get. But I think Andertons does definitely lead the way, because they got that market early on, didn't they?
Yeah, for sure. And that's something that we're aware of. So I do it on a freelance basis. So I'm not actually part of the team there, but I work closely with them to see what they need and what they want. But some of it is like, you can't really compete with Andertons to some extent, because Andertons already do Andertons. So we've decided to go the other way and do it less informally. Like in general, the Andertons videos are quite informal. They're having a chat about things, and that's cool to watch, and I've enjoyed that. But we're not going to do that, because it wouldn't make sense to do that, because they already do it.
Yeah.
So
they got the all the little MS1 little Marshall speakers, and they put
Right.
50 of them all together.
Yeah. That was before my time at GAC. So yeah, but yeah, I've watched that one. That's a really popular video for GAC.
I find it quite
contains
interesting.
Nothing
Actually.
usely. Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things. It sort of sounds like I'm not going to ruin it for anyone, but the words "be in a jam jar" comes to mind. But yeah, so I do the videos for them, and I think that the comments that you get on things like that with regards to like the hate and stuff, like those people are either right or they're wrong, or it's completely subjective, you know. And I think sometimes people have they think that the people who are making these videos, or even producers to some extent, are like gods and they know everything, and they try and take them down as a way of like, you know, I also know some things, and in reality it's just like a different string to your bow, or a different, you know, perspective on something that you could learn from. And yeah, so that's something that has been thoroughly drilled into me as a result of doing those videos, and reading the comments on them is just like, oh, never mind.
Well, let's say you and me are kind of approximating roughly the same age. So like, with playing guitar, we've grown up through the social media side of things, playing guitar. And I can recount for myself when I first started like putting videos on YouTube, the hatred that people can give you for the stupidest little things can just be quite daunting, and you really do have to build a thick skin now, especially because even people like Rabia Massad and Rob Chapman and everybody now, you know, Fluff and Jared, you know, they all just get hate now.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of it can stem down to jealousy.
I think potentially that's the case. There's some, I think when you're approaching that, like if anyone is listening and they're wanting to get into that sort of thing, or like maybe start their own podcast or anything like that, putting themselves out there, you have to remember that people are just people, and you are also a person. And so all of the negative aspects of humanity will come, you know, regardless. They're either right or they're wrong. And if they're right about what they're saying, then you know that they're right, and you could potentially change it. If you can't change it, that's fine. Or they're wrong, in which case it doesn't matter anyway. And so I think that's potentially one of the best ways to approach it from people I've spoken to, is like, you know, either take it on board and learn from it, or just discount it because it doesn't matter to what you're building.
Have you yourself had issues with that?
Well, would like self-doubt?
I wouldn't say self-doubt, but like when people, you know, might be saying things about you, you know, whether it's something that you've put out, and you do kind of sit there and dwell upon those thoughts, so to speak.
Yeah, I think to some extent it's hard not to let certain things niggle at you. I think anyone will get that. It's what you do with that. And so yeah, like I get, like, you know, in the past I've got comparisons to Pliny in the way that I play guitar, and that's
not a bad comparison to have.
Yeah, it's not terrible, but I find it quite annoying, because to me I don't sound like Pliny, I sound like me. It just so happens that Pliny has covered a lot of that ground, which makes it difficult. And we also share like basically the same guitar influences as well.
Yeah.
So it's not surprising, but you know, he's going in a different path, and hopefully the stuff that I'm doing at the moment will go down a different path. But that's something that has stuck with me for a while. It's like, it really bothered me at the beginning. I was like, oh, I don't sound like Pliny. Like, I know I sound like Pliny, but like, you know.
Yeah. I think anybody that sort of goes down the instrumental, because I think the instrumental thing now with production and being able to do so much at home, instrumental music has sort of been really sort of pushed into the forefront. And I think, say, like players like yourselves or John Connor that play that very clean, pristine sort of instrumental music are automatically, I think, going to get pigeonholed, quotation marks, into that Pliny.
Yeah, area. John's music is fantastic, by the way. Like, yeah. I know you already know this, but like, yeah, I was listening to him a few weeks ago, and then I saw that you had done a podcast with him, and I was like, oh, it's wicked. But yeah, his music's fantastic.
Yeah, it's insane. It's because I'll you know, before I had been introduced to me again by Phil Dyer. I swear Phil knows everybody.
Cheers, Phil.
And he pointed me in the direction of, say, like yourselves, Jack Gardner and John Cannon. And John got back to me quite quickly. And funny enough, Lily is about 20 minutes away from where I live.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he's not too far away at all. And then so I've checked out like Distracted, and it's this thing on. And I was just like, whoa. And as like I said in the podcast, I needed a nap after it because my head was just like, what have I just listened to? Bloody hell. it's
that dude
intense.
So good.
But in a good way.
It actually for something that I had a similar experience recently with music, where I was like, oh my God, afterwards. There's a guy called Lyle Workman who's worth checking out.
I can't say I've heard of him.
No, I hadn't heard of him either. I have a friend, Sean, who put me onto him. And his music's like, he composes for film and TV, but he's also a complete badass at guitar. And he's just done an album at Abbey Road with like real strings and real everything. And, you know, it's like a mixture of like Danny Elfman style composition with like jazz guitar and like shred rock stuff. And it like literally I was just sat there like, oh my God, this is amazing. and then you come out at the other end like an hour and a bit later, just like, oh God, I need to sit down.
I'll have to check that out after this show.
Yeah, I'll send you a link. Yeah,
cheers, man. So with your guitar journey, can you remember what you started with back in the day?
Sure. So I started with a video game called Guitar Hero 3.
Yes.
And that is...
Yes.
Is that a similar thing for you?
Yes.
I've met
Guitar
two
Hero
other
3.
people who've started that way as well.
Who's
it's clearly a big... there's a guy that I went to university with, and he had also got into guitar from...
Okay.
And then, a friend of mine as well. I don't think that you...
Mine sort of started with Guitar Hero, but I remember getting Guitar Hero 3, and then it was about the time when I sort of started to discover rock music and whatnot. And then so my parents bought me Guitar Hero 3 for Christmas, and then I got introduced by my uncle onto the band Rammstein, and then that was then what put me onto guitar. But yeah, carry on.
That's fantastic. Like, some of those tracks, like, so yeah, Guitar Hero, and then I reached the point where I was like, why am I playing this? I could just learn real guitar. You know? And then I started learning the tracks on Guitar Hero, but on real guitar, you know, because they were familiar to me. And it turns out that the fingerings aren't remotely the same. But so that was sort of my entry in. And my dad lent me his, we have an Ibanez Blazer series from the 80s. I think it's from like 1983. It's essentially one of the original Blazer series, which is a Strat style Ibanez. Sort of a precursor to the AZ series, but not really. So like when the AZ series got released, I was like, yeah, I've seen that before.
Nostalgia.
But I think that Ibanez got stung with... There was a period where Ibanez copied every other guitar, which is why Paul Gilbert has like an Ibanez of every body shape, and because he's collected them. And then he got stung with a bunch of lawsuits, and they obviously moved into their RG and everything like that. But I'm not entirely sure what the backstory is with Blazer. But so I learned to play on the Blazer, and then my dad has a Ibanez Prestige, and that was my first real guitar, which is kind of a ridiculous guitar. You know, people have like a cheap one, and then they go to like a Squire or something. Whereas I went to like a Prestige Ibanez from Japan.
Very nice.
Like, and so I immediately put it in drop B, and the trend is like poor guitar, you know. So I was borrowing that off my dad for a while, and I got into that, and that's why I was learning like Paul Gilbert stuff on and Dream Theater and things like that. And
it's a very intense way to start learning to play guitar with Dream Theater and
when I was learning guitar, like initially starting out, the first thing I learned was Iron Man. So I wasn't starting off with like In the Name of God or whatever, you know. But yeah, so it's all built up, and then there was this turning point where I was like, oh, actually, I seem to have like some sort of affinity for guitar playing. It seems to be something I pick up quite naturally. I think a lot of people pick things up naturally in the first bit, you know. You have to put your finger on the string and pluck it,
In your hands, like, because whenever I've done guitar lessons and like people say I can't hold the pick properly, and I turn my guitar the other way around, and then I try and hold the pick with my left hand, and
it's so hard,
and it's like a chicken claw. I'm like, this hand has never held a pick before. What am I doing?
I also do that when I teach. Like particularly if there's beginners or something. I haven't done beginner lessons for a while, due to lockdown and just the nature of that being what it is. But yeah, like when you turn the guitar around, like you immediately realize that you're rubbish.
Yeah.
And you're just like, you really struggle. Like you've got all the knowledge, but you can't do any of it.
It's like, hold on, this hand's meant to be doing that, but it can, no, that, and it is that's not worked.
Yeah, exactly. And you can like, you have the theoretical knowledge to be able to like mirror your hands to be able to do like bar chords and things, but they buzz and they're out of.
It's just, horrible, isn't it?
Yeah,
it does help, because then they kind of go, oh well, at least it's a common thing.
I mean, no one's born with the ability to play guitar.
No,
they don't get pushed out and immediately they start shredding like Malmsteen. Like you have to pick it up and you have to work it. There's obviously things that people are naturally better at. Like, so some people are better at visualization, just the way their brain works. They're like Rain Man, they can see everything on the neck. But
I wish.
Yeah, no, I don't have that. I wish I had that. That'd be good. Like Holsworth allegedly could see the neck and all the scales like that. And I still think it's slightly dubious, but his music speaks for itself, so maybe he could.
Definitely. Did you have the issue with Guitar Hero when you started to play guitar that then you couldn't play Guitar Hero? Because as soon as I started to play Guitar Hero was just out of the question.
I went back to it like maybe 2-3 years ago. We dug it out of the loft because we still got it. I couldn't do it at all. It was awful. Like, because it's a completely different feeling.
It's a completely different rhythm as well. That was what was annoying me.
And I got like 30 seconds into My Curse on like medium difficulty, and I couldn't do it. And I was like, and then I just pick up real guitar, and I'm like, oh yeah, I can play it.
I was quite happy, I was always been able to trundle along on expert, and you'd have that technique where you'd like to do the real fast double, like the picking. And then I went back to it because a couple of friends of mine, that they've got the band Hero one, so the drums and everything like that. I mean, you're a guitarist, you can have the guitar. And I was just like, And then I just couldn't do it. I just really couldn't do it. And I was like, I need to go on the drums. I can do that at least.
Yeah, that's a bit more intuitive. It's just such a weird way. Like, do you ever go on Facebook and ever get those videos, like live streams pushed to you? I get them all the time. I think it's because I watched a few of them where it's some guy streaming Guitar Hero. Yeah. And he's making bank out of it as well. Like, people are donating all this money to him. And I'm like, I can play these things for real and you're not paying me. Like, this is this guy with 5 buttons and everyone's like, yeah, he's so good. And then you see a real guitarist and they're like, yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
And it's really disheartening.
It was like, do you remember there was that guy on YouTube, Guitar Hero Phenom, that used to just be ridiculous on the Guitar Hero, and then he ended up having all the comments of people going, oh, well, you should play on real guitar. And then so he ended up going to get a real guitar and was learning Through the Fire and the fucking Flames on guitar. And I was just like, shut you up.
Yeah, right. Oh man, yeah.
I tried doing with COVID last year. I started to think, okay, maybe I'll go down the live stream option. So I invested in Twitch and YouTube and doing live streams, like spending 4 hours a day live streaming on every different social media platform.
Oh.
Didn't really take off. And then say you got people just sitting there on Twitch going and just got thousands upon thousands of views. I'm just like, what's the point?
Yeah, it's slightly disheartening. But if you're playing guitar just so that you can get views on Twitch, then I think your heart's in the wrong place. Yeah, you should enjoy guitar, and that's why you play guitar.
I was furloughed, so I had nothing better to do.
Yeah. I mean, like if you're doing that, then totally, go for it. But yeah, that's something to remember. Is like, it's not the be all and end all.
Yeah. Although I've had a lot of people comment saying because about 2 weeks ago, this time last year when I got furloughed. And I've had a few people say, God, your ability's gotten so much better in the last year. And I was like, well, you're saying I was shit before.
Oh, savage.
Have you found, say, during COVID and spending a year at home and whatnot, have you managed to find anything that you've gone, okay, I'm going to knuckle down and boss?
Yeah, I think so. Like I've had the, so currently where I'm at the moment, like I was previously to this, I was like posting on social media fairly regularly. And that's how I ended up working with companies like Get Good Drums and Neural DSP and quite a lot of different people. And that's amazing. But I haven't posted for like 3 months at the moment, just because I've been busy working on stuff. And having that time where you're at home to knuckle down on it has been really useful. Like last January, I went to Nam and got to hang out with like the best guitarists in the world. And like, it's terrifying. And you sort of like, okay. And then I came back and I hit upon a few things that I've only now just sort of put into practice, like new sort of technical applications of stuff. So when I was approaching the social media stuff, I was always trying to, actually, this could be a nice segue into something to talk about properly. Not that we haven't talked about it, but like something to go down the rabbit hole on. But yeah, so I've been practicing a lot. I've been working on things and trying to push the boat out. So there's a bunch of like fingerstyle things, because I've always been primarily a picking guitarist, and I economy pick almost everything because I'm weird.
I alternate pick everything, and then I started doing the whole hybrid picking.
Oh, the hybrid stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, like if you watch, I was watching some videos back, and I have this really weird motion where I like pick with my thumb, like my wrist doesn't move that much, and like I'm like flicking the pick up and down so I can get simulating the articulation. It's a really weird way of playing, because like I think it developed as a result of me learning all those Dream Theater songs kind of early without having all the technique there, and I was sort of like trying to play to my strengths when I was learning that stuff. And so I'd economy pick things because it felt easier. And now as a 27-year-old, I now economy pick everything, and I suck at alternate picking. I mean I can alternate pick things, but it's like, like I'm much more at home with that. But yeah, I've gone down like the fingerstyle sort of route and trying to push some new ground there, at least for me, outside of your standard acoustic style playing or things like that. And so been working a lot actually on using your little finger on your right hand, because like typically when you're finger picking, at least in the classical sense, you don't normally use your little finger.
Yeah, I don't. And I'm just simulating it now, and I don't think I ever use my little finger.
Right. Yeah. Well, I think part of that is potentially that if you're playing normal music, it's in 4/4, right? And so like if you can subdivide that into like either groups of 3 or 4, then you could use your thumb, index, middle, and ring finger, and that covers you. But when you start doing weird prog stuff, you need those groups of 5. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So your little finger's coming out. But I've been sort of working on that, and I've got a massive blister on the end of my finger from tracking at the moment.
The weird technique I've noticed that I've only really picked up on it this year, but funny enough, it's through the little finger. But I get my little finger and I hook it almost underneath the like the bottom string.
Right.
So like when I'll pick, for example, like I'll hold my little finger underneath almost the string as like an anchor for some reason. Right. I've only just recently realised that I do it.
Interesting.
Yeah, and
that's sort of reminiscent of I'm going to bring up Petrucci again, but he anchors his little finger essentially under his bridge pickup to some extent, or it's anchored on the body, because he plays with trailing fingers.
Yeah.
Which I also do, because I don't do the fist thing. That sounded really weird. I don't do the fisting thing. But like the trailing fingers thing, and that's actually something I've worked on a lot. It's like, when you're learning guitar and things, you're like, well, there's a proper way of doing things, and there's my way of doing things, and all these other things. It's like I spent so much time learning how to play like the way I'm playing at the moment, but then Guthrie Govan plays with a fist, and I'm like, well, he's a lot better than me, so I should play with a fist also. But then also Petrucci doesn't, and then you come to the conclusion that you have to work with what you've got.
Yeah.
So that's actually something I worked on quite extensively, and then sacked it off because it always felt really weird to me. But actually really useful when you're tracking acoustic to use the fist, because you aren't trailing your fingers on the body and you're not creating unwanted resonance by tapping the body.
Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't play much acoustic, but yeah, I can see why.
Yeah, it's and also with what you're saying with the little finger as well. If you're leaving open strings out, then there's a tendency to hit harmonics with the little finger if it's touching that high E string, and that's something that I've had to work on recently. It was just like I realized I did this naturally, and it started really annoying me when I listened back to takes. And it's like I just hear this harmonic over the top, and you can notch filter it out, but it's not the same.
Yeah, so, I know what you mean.
Re-recording again.
You'd sort of filter it out, and then you'd realize you just lost this certain dynamic range from the rest of it. It's just like,
Absolutely. Yeah, well then, like if you actually hit a harmonic, the harmonic doesn't come out because you've not filtered it. But yeah, so been working on stuff like that, and getting into sort of harmonics a little bit more, like some
utilizing them a little bit.
Yeah, sort of finding harmonic nodes and catching them on upstrokes.
Yeah.
So it's essentially like a sweeped pinch harmonic, but you're doing it upwards, and depending on where you're doing the thing, you can split it into getting different harmonics over the top, because obviously the guitar is split into harmonic nodes. Depending on where you pick that harmonic node, you're going to be able to get a different overtone out of it. So if you split it, you can make weird chords over the top of other chords that you're playing. So I've been sort of working on stuff like that. That's on the new material that I'm doing. Hopefully there'll be a good example when I finally release it. But yeah, that's sort of been fun. What was the thing I was going to talk about? Social media. Yeah, that was the thing.
Yeah, we digressed massively.
I have a tendency just to ramble, and I feel sorry for my students because I also do this to them. I just sort of like dump information at them, like
it's interesting information, so it's all right.
Yeah, it's fine. It depends who you ask. But yeah, the social media thing, like previous to recently, I was using like people have a weird view of what social media is. And I'm by no means an expert, but I know how I want to use it. And that's as a tool to obviously promote yourself. So my social media is almost entirely based around my music. You're never going to see me post a picture of my food, or if I go down the beach with my family, it's not going to be on there. That's fine if other people want to do that, but that's not me. And then for every video I'm doing, it's not just a mindless video. So I've learned something very specific with each one of them. And I do, like when I watch them back, I know what I did. So maybe the bass tone, I tried something different and tried to make it work. And the key with that is that by taking the thing you're experimenting with and forcing yourself to release a video with it as best you can. Obviously you can sack it off if it sucks. But like if maybe you're trying something new, like a new preamp or new pedal or something, try and dial it in as best you can and take it to the furthest point where you self-master it and then put it out. And what you actually learn from that entire process is way more valuable than you just jamming around with it, because you get an idea for that production side of things, how it mixes, how it blends with other things properly, because you forced yourself to do it. And recently I haven't been doing that just because I've been really busy with recording and not showing anyone what I'm doing. But I will go back to it at some point.
Making blanket forts.
Yeah, I'm literally just making a blanket fort. Like there's not even mics in there, it's just a blanket fort. But yeah, no, I thought that was potentially a nice perspective to put on the social media thing, because it can feel really grindy and daunting if you are serious about it. And I know people who are serious about it, or they're just starting out, or people who've been doing it for a long time and they all get sick of it because you're just putting out content all the time and it doesn't feel like you're doing things that are that beneficial to you.
So often that was the same sort of thing, because obviously what Matthias Asato was having, where he was losing that love for what he was doing just because he was having to condense whatever he was doing into those 60-second clips. it can massively, I wouldn't say hold you back is the right word, but you can just get stuck in a rut, can't you, with having to do certain things.
I think to some extent as well, there's an issue where it potentially hampers your creativity, because you're making content and not art, and you're an artist, right? You make music. Yeah. That's what it is, right? And if you're just making content so that you can get more followers, those followers, well, this is another thing to think about as well, and it's something that I've mentioned a few times to other people. It's just like, if you are so concerned with the amount of followers you have, and that's the be all and end all of it, think about what you're actually building. Why are those people there? Like, those people aren't there for you. They're there for like the things that you do, but that's not you, because you're just making content. Mm-hmm. So like, if you only do the things that you do and do them well, then the audience that you'll build around that as well will only be there for you. And that's something that I've done for myself. And I don't want to put myself on this weird pedestal or anything like that. It's just my own observation. But like, in terms of engagement rates and things and numbers and things, I haven't posted for like 3 months now, and my followers haven't really gone down by like 10. You know, there's people that follow and unfollow, they do one anyway, but you know, like, it's one of those things, like, those people are just there because you make art and they want to see the art when it's ready. And so you don't need to put that pressure on yourself, because those people will come back.
Yeah, I think it's like, you know, you can have 2 accounts. You can have one that would have 100,000 followers, and you could have one that could have maybe 1,000 followers, for example.
Yeah.
You could have that 100,000 followers, but you might only be getting a reach of 5% or something on them. Or you could have the 1,000 followers where 90% of them is engaged. And I think, like you say, I think people can be very quick to automatically go, oh, I want to build a following. I want to get to 10,000 followers. I want to get to 20,000 followers. But if you're not putting out something that you feel like, if I was going to do it, for example, like, I stick to metal is my thing, you know. I posted a video, another post the other day. I was playing some John Mayer stuff. Not usually what I do, but you know, it's still part of the journey, so to speak. But if I was just going to go out there and post some jazz, it's like, well, hold on a second, that doesn't fit in with the whole picture.
Yeah.
And your followers aren't going to be as well invested in it. I think it's the quality over the quantity, I think, is basically the way to...
Absolutely. I think, as you know, as well, you have to be mindful of what you're building. Like, what is the end goal with this? Like, I understand if people are just like going out there and they're like, I just want to see how many followers I can get so I can get an endorsement for some shoes or something. That's fine, cool, get your shoes. But like, like, in terms of like a long-term thing,
would you rather sell out very quickly and just get a free pair of shoes, or would you rather wait and design your own shoes?
Absolutely, design your own shoes. It's a really weird analogy. I love it.
It is, but
design your own shoes. Yeah, it does work. It's good. Yeah, so it's kind of like being mindful of what you're building. Like, are you becoming McDonald's, or are you becoming like a high-end? Because like a high-end restaurant needs to sell like 1 meal in comparison to like 30 meals from McDonald's. And so like, which one would you rather be? And it's okay to be either one of them, but just like, it's something to think about. And I know which one I'd rather be.
Yeah, it's the same here. Like, you know, I look, you know, there's other musicians out there that, you know, they have hundreds of thousands of followers and whatnot. But then I think, okay, I might only have 650 followers or whatever, but some of the people that do follow me are relatively high profile. You know, I've got people that say like Mikey Demas from Rabia Mossad and whatnot that follow me as a person. And so that overall, all it takes is just for one of those people just go check this person out, and then that's going to be the more of the quality, rather than 100,000 people that are just going and just scrolling through, not paying attention.
100%. Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's another thing to think about as well, is like, in terms of growth, you know, how do you want to grow? Do you want to rub people the wrong way, or do you want to do things like, if you want attention, make something good. Like, it's really simple. And I think people can sometimes lose sight of that, is that, you know, I have a friend, Joseph. I always forget how to pronounce it. I think it's Anaja. On Instagram, he's known as Joseph is Rad. He plays in a bassy, and he's a fantastic guitarist. But he put out like a story thing, and I hope he doesn't mind me saying it, but it was people whinge. He essentially said people whinge about the algorithm on Instagram. The algorithm doesn't suck. Your content sucks. Make something worth sharing, and then you'll get the shares. And
absolutely.
It's brutally honest, but it's also true.
It is.
So when people are like flooding my, I'm sure you've had it the same, where they flood your inbox with, check out my latest thing, check out this, and they're pushing it in front of your face all the time. I will never check it out. Or if I will, I won't publicly let anyone know, because I don't want that. And I don't think it's a good way of building, because I will, I have a memory for everyone who's done that to me and followed me and unfollowed me. If you're listening to this, you're all in here. You're in my brain. You're living free real estate in my brain. And I can remember most of your names. And if I meet you, cool, I'll be polite to you, but I'm not going to help you out because you've annoyed me that much, because I think that you've sold yourself out.
Absolutely.
Do something really cool, and then I'll notice it anyway, and I'll say it's cool, rather than you wanting me to tell you it's cool. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah,
that comes across as incredibly arseholey, but I think it underpins the underlying philosophy there.
I wouldn't say it's arseholey. I would say it's like you say, it's selling out for the sake of selling out, almost. Because when we all do when we upload our videos, we'll put hashtag new guitar day.
Oh yeah, of course.
Hashtag guitar solo, blah 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 instruments. Because that is how you build your reach, and then automatically DM us for a paid feature. Fuck off. No, because
exactly
half of the people that are even going to be, I will pay you £15. Okay, yes, publicly put me out there. What do I get from that? Nothing.
Exactly.
They won't. They're not going to click on my name on there on the profile. They're not going to. They're just going to like your video. None of that gets back to me. So what's the point?
Exactly. And to that end, you're better off running your own advert.
Yeah.
If you are considering that, run your own advert and do a targeted audience selection on Instagram. Or potentially another way to think about it is buy a product that a company will share your stuff with. So, if you make something great, particularly at the moment with a company like Get Good Drums, like one of their, things, if you produce a well-mixed, well-shot video and it sounds good, they'll share it.
Yeah.
Because there's a nature of endorsement deals. And whilst you're not endorsed, you're helping out that company, and they can also help you out if you're trying to build something legitimately. And that's the path I've gone down. And obviously, I'm very fortunate to have been able to work with those guys and beta test their things, and the same with Neural. So it's not quite the same. But the reason I got into that is I was just releasing videos, and just
that's how
putting
it
them out.
starts.
And then the organic reach sort of came in, and people were like, oh yeah, kind of like what's going on. And then someone sees it and they go, yeah, I really like that. And then they're like, do you want to beta test this? And I'm like, yeah, cool. Sounds great.
All it takes is the right person at the right time to say, like you say, just to see your material. And the more, I think, like you say, it's an organic reach, because those people are going to have the invested interest in what you're doing because they're showing the enjoyment of the product. Say Neural DSP, for example. I love Neural DSP stuff. I'll put my hands up. I'm not the best mixer in the world when it comes to bits and pieces and stuff like that. I'm still learning, as you do.
That's cool.
But every time I always put a video up and I'll say using Neural DSP, blah blah blah, I'll tag Neural DSP in it. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, they don't. At the end of the day, it doesn't plus me. I just enjoy using their products. Like all the guitar pedals, I love Redbeard effects. So I'm always there with Fuzzy Goodness, and I'll always tag them, and they'll share it and whatnot. But you've got advertising a brand doesn't necessarily mean you're selling out. It just necessarily means that you're just enjoying the organic nature of something.
I think people have. I'm saying all these things, and I'm aware that something to bear in mind is that it's just my perspective on it. It's nothing, I don't hold all the cards. Yeah,
everybody's
exactly.
But it's just a perspective and opinion.
There's something to be said for that. It's just that this is just me. That's what's worked for me thus far.
Yeah.
or that's my perspective on it at the moment, that sort of thing. So if you've got a better thing, or if you don't want to do any of that, yeah, cool, fine, whatever.
You do you, essentially.
Yeah, but the red beard effects, they do the honey badger, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I haven't tried one, but I really want to. Just on a complete tangent.
I've got one on my pedal board, and I love it. I absolutely love it. I think I've got number 15. I think it was made, because mine's got the serial number. I think mine was number 15. Nice. And it was at the UK Guitar Show last year. I was at the UK Guitar Show, and
I was also there.
We probably would have crossed paths at some point. And just,
it was quite a small room.
Yeah, it was. It wasn't a bit. I was there on the Saturday. I was
there both days.
Okay. So, yeah. I wasn't fortunate enough to be there both days, but so I was there on Saturday, and it was around the time of my birthday. So I was like, all right, I'm going to take some money. If I buy something, I'll buy something.
Sure.
And to be fair, I'd seen a few videos of the honey badger, and I like fuzz. I like fuzz a lot. I think like there's 12 pedals on my pedal board or something, and I think like a quarter of them are all fuzz orientated. I've got the Octavix, I've got the obviously the honey badger, I've got the Thunderclaw, Mr. Black Thunderclaw, and I've got the Cooper Sonic Germaniac as well. So wow. I love fuzz. And so like I went up to the Redbeard booth, and I started chatting to Mikey, and I was like, do you mind if I try one out? And I tried one out, and automatically I was just like, oh. You know, when you just you get that face of whoa.
Yeah, I had that with the Dover amp.
I did try the Dover amps when I was there. I was speaking funny enough to Tim Mills about them yesterday, and I was saying how good they are.
Yeah, I'm really, really fortunate in that I have one of the DA50s and the 2x12 cab that you hear on my right.
I live in a terraced house, unfortunately. So like I was saying, like I said, exactly the same conversation to Tim yesterday. That side's a young family with 2 young kids, and this side is a guy that does night shifts. So me having a proper amp like that in my room, it can't happen. But when I've just like seen the little D glow up on the front of it, I was like, oh.
Yeah, it's well designed. They're voiced really nicely to my ear as well. To be honest, I mostly just use the heads with the load box and just use that direct in.
Oxbox?
No, I've been using the Captor 8.
Oh, yes.
Is the precursor to the Captor X, because I don't need IRs on the unit. And to be honest, most of the time I'll be swapping out IRs afterwards. So I don't want to capture it. I mean, I know you can set it up certain ways, but honestly, it was cheaper and it does the same thing. So, but yeah, I've been using that. Potentially looking to move over to the Sir reactive load at some point, just because I hear slightly better things about it. I think at the end of the day, it's such a negligible difference, but I'm all about that negligible difference, you know. But yeah, got really into the analog amp thing again after a while. Like I continued to use neural stuff and got the Kemper profiling amp as well, and I've used that for quite a long time.
I've used my Kemper for a while, and I sold it a month ago because I got the Quad Cortex coming. And
ooh, very nice.
I'm literally waiting any day now for guitar to phone me, because I know the dealer shipments have gone out. So I'm just like, come on, ring me! I want my Quad Cortex.
Right. Have you been on the Facebook group?
Yes, I'm on there.
Yeah, that's absolute tragic.
Yeah,
just the people whinging in that group is unbelievable.
Are you in the unofficial
I'm in
Kemper
both,
one?
like all of them. Yeah, I'm in that as well, and the Echoplex one. And
the Quad Cortex was finally getting shipped out, and all the people were just like slating it. And
yeah,
I exclusively use ReampZone stuff for my Kemper profiles. Dan was very nice to take me under his wing, and was just like, the entire store is yours for free. Just we want you.
Nice.
You know, he just said use it in all your stuff. And I worked quite closely with him in building some tones and stuff. But he got the Quad Cortex as well, and he said he plugged it straight in, and he said it blew the Kemper out the water. And I was like, that's a good sign. So we'll continue to work with him and bring some metal tones for you.
Perfect. There's a few comparison videos online, and I was impressed by them. Obviously compressed by YouTube and all of that stuff, but
yeah,
Yeah, I think, and for me, the big thing with the quad cortex, and the reason that I'm getting one, is that it's the footprint of it. It's small. You could put
Yeah.
it in a rack drawer and like run it all the changes from MIDI, and it's still got enough power to run 2 amps in stereo, which the Kemper can't do, because
Yeah.
the Kemper's like 10 years old at this point.
That's the biggest selling point for me with the quad cortex was the stereo rig, because when I run my neural DSP, I just run input 1, but then use the internal loop back so I can make a nice stereo rig with the plugins. And when I started doing that, that was when the Kemper just started to gather dust, and I was like, if this is just a quarter of what the quad cortex is going to do, then it's going to just open up a whole new game, and I can't wait to get my hands on it.
Absolutely. I think for one of the things for me is like at some point I'm going to go back to, so before lockdown I was supposed to be going on tour under my own name as support. It was sort of in the process of being announced, and I hope they don't mind me, but I was supposed to be supporting Tony McAlpine, you know, the shred wizard from the 90s and 2000s. Yeah, I like for all the UK dates, and we were looking at that sort of thing, and yeah, like for me, having all of the power of the like a quad cortex in a rack drawer that you could run 2 guitarists and a bassist through, and that would be the entire rig that you need to turn up to a gig. Yeah, you know, that would be like mind-blowing to me. So that's one of the reasons I'd love to get, or I will be getting my hands on one, hopefully, through Neural. But yeah, that's just, yeah, I'm really looking forward to that.
It's mind blowing when you think about the days when we had the little like Line 6 pod beans, you know, in terms of modeling, you know, which at the time we thought were great. We look back and they haven't particularly aged very well, let's be honest. And then now what you can do, and it's just insane. I was talking to Tim about this yesterday because we were talking about Neural. And Rabia was originally the guy that recommended me to try out the Neural products last year, because I would always use my Kemper purely because it was turn on, plug in, play, done, and I was happy with that. And then I got so I just got a demo, you know, the 14-day trial of Nolly. That was the first one I thought I'd try, because it's got some cleans, it's got some crunch, and it's got like the gent.
It's got the 5150 in it, and it's got the modified victory at the end, doesn't it?
Yeah. So, and then I plugged into that, and I was just blown away. And the thing that I really liked is it's got that thing that a Kemper doesn't do, where you get that harmonic feedback when you hold a bend. You know what I'm talking about, and you just hold that bend, and you just get that slight frequency just come in, and it's like, yeah, that's what I want. And then
I think for me the presence and the you know, anything above like 10K on the neural stuff I found more pleasing in general. I don't know whether that might be the profiles I'm using or anything like that. But yeah, to that end, I've been sort of replacing my favorite things from the neural stuff with the actual hardware recently, which is awful and expensive. But yeah, I got my hands on like a 5152, like the PV, you know, like I've got the proper one, and I had to hoover it out because it was full of dust and stuff, but it's fine. And then actually all the lead tones for my Lighthouse EP, they weren't done with Neural, but they were done with Seymour Duncan Convertible amp, which is this modular desigin that Jeff
I don't think I've ever heard of a Seymour Duncan amp. I have to be honest.
They're worth checking out. But it's like a really odd amp choice to use, because like everyone else is using like Victories or anything like that. And, like all my lead tones for ages were just this Seymour Duncan Seymour Duncan Convertible amp, but like cranked on the Kemper.
Okay, yeah.
And just because I thought it was pleasing, and like they come with their own speakers as well, like Seymour Duncan speakers, which I thought was really interesting, because everyone's using Celestians or, you know, like the V30 thing or greenbacks, like, and you know, the Dover cab's got V30s in it, and I have a Steve Vai Legacy VL100. I actually have Steve Vai's Legacy.
I'll say you've actually got Steve Vai's actual Legacy, haven't you?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
So
yeah, I don't want to toot my own horn, but it's pretty cool.
Yes. Which is, I'll be honest, I wanted to bring that up and I completely forgotten. So thank you for reminding me, because I want to hear the story on this.
I just wanted to flex it, you know. But it sounds great. So I've wanted one for a while. I'm a big Steve Vai fan. And there's a certain sound out of the legacies that you can only really get from a legacy, or you can get close to it with Bogner's and things like that, because that's what the legacy is sort of has come after. And they're all based on Jose modded Marshalls and sorts of things like that. But I kept an eye on it, and just always having a look online for 5150 legacy amp, JCM 800. I'm always there. I search like before bed, just having a look just to see if there's anything worth picking up if you can.
I'm so glad I'm not the only one.
Yeah, right. It's like, if you're into like stocks or crypto, you check in the market every night. Yeah, but I'm just looking for 5150s. And there's a guy, and he was selling legacy head and cab, and he's had it for 20 something years. And it turns out that he used to take photos of Vai on tour. He was like his principal photographer, and he's done stuff for like Petrucci G3 and all of that sort of thing. And he did the Live at Astoria DVD.
Yeah.
Or he was there for the filming of the Live at Astoria DVD, I think. And at the end of that thing, because all of the legacies were like hired in for that leg, because obviously it doesn't make sense to ship them over from the States. They were selling off the legacy head and cab, and I'm pretty sure I have the cab that's on the right if you're looking at the stage on the Astoria DVD. And there's like 3 legacies on the left in a rack. And allegedly, I don't know how true this is, but I'm inclined to believe him, because obviously he went on tour and stuff, and he had all of like the things. But yeah, he had just like one of the legacies in the cabs from that DVD. And like I've watched that DVD so many times, and when it popped up it was on Facebook Marketplace. And when it popped up on there, I was like, that's mine. Straight in the car the next day, just like, I'll come pick it up now. I've used it recently, actually. I went down to a studio close to me called The Ranch in Southampton. It's run by a wonderful man called Neil Kennedy, and we've been tracking with a guy called Kurt Fagan, who's also an excellent man. And we had the legacy set up in their live room and cranked, and legacy heads are loud anyway. But this thing, like, I dimed it. Like I literally just ran my hand across the power section. And I've never had like my balls and the inside of my knees. No, everything was shaking. I'm like in this room, and we got some audio of it just from like the static camera that I set up. So at some point I'll release that video, because I'm doing all this feedback stuff, but like properly, where I'm stood like 2 feet away from the cab, like doing all those weird poses so you can get the feedback in the right point. I've never had my whole body shake like that before. Like, it's religious experience. So if you can try it, I definitely recommend it. But you're not going to be able to do that at home if you've got like.
Well, when's the next time I can get a train down to Southampton?
Yeah, right. Well, you'd be more than welcome to try it out, but you're not allowed to. I don't think. We can crank it here. Yeah.
I was like that when my dream guitar came up last year. I've been searching for this guitar for like 10 years, 15 years, something stupid like that. And then it come up at a relatively cheap price. And I was just like, nope, I've got to scratch and claw and find them. My parents
were
nice. This ESPR ZK.
Oh, nice.
I've been wanting it for about 10 years.
Yeah, it's really like distinct.
Yeah.
What's the pick guard on it?
It's you can quite see it's like a clear. Because I've got a silver version and I've got this burnt one, but this burnt one was the one I was after, because the finish is incredible. And it came up at a really good price, and I was just like, Mom, Dad, can I borrow a bit of money? And
actually went to that end, actually, like borrowing a bit of money. my mum owns half a drum kit and half the 5150, and I still need to pay her back for that. I just when it popped up, I was like, I'm a bit strapped at the moment. But
sorry, Mum.
Any chance, can I borrow like some money off you, and I'll obviously pay you back. I still haven't paid her back.
It was that thing of I was just in bed at like 11 o'clock at night, looking through Reverb and looking through the daily post of VSPR's okay, and it come up at this, and I was like, I haven't seen it that cheap ever. So I was just like,
yeah.
Next day they say they let me the money, and it comes from the Netherlands.
Oh really?
Yeah.
So you have to pay like import and stuff, I guess.
I didn't actually have to pay anything for the import. The shipping was about 100 quid for the shipping.
That's not too bad.
But it still had all the cellophane on every part of it, on the pick guard, on the back. There was no wear whatsoever. And it looks like...
Have you taken it off?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It's really satisfying, right? When you peel it off.
Yeah.
Like for the videos at GAC and stuff, we're taking new products out, and like they're all covered in the cellophane, and I'm like, I can't peel it off because this is a customer's guitar. Like, obviously we demo like the guitars that come in and then they get sold and stuff. And I really want to take the plastic off the pickups and things like that. So I don't want to scratch them.
Yeah, that's always so the first thing whenever I get a guitar, I'm like, ugh.
Yes, it's the most satisfying. Like, you know, when you get a new phone or something, you peel it off.
Yeah. So I want to talk effects because we've touched a little bit on effects. What do you enjoy using? What are your preferred effects other than like reverb and delays? Because I know they're quite common in your stuff.
Well, I like reverb and delay. I've been actually recently been messing around with harmonizers.
Okay.
So got some interesting signal change stuff going on at the moment. So I think in general, just a quick rundown of general effects or general signal setup. So I've been using SMP guitars for about a year now, actually, which is crazy to think about the length of time, because it was like yesterday. Oh, we've lost a year due to lockdown anyway.
Yeah.
It's fine. Yeah, I'm still like 26. It's fine.
Have you got the E-core? Is it I-core, E-core model? I can't remember how you pronounce it.
I've got two with me at the moment.
Because
I'm going to have to take my headphones off.
Go on.
Sorry, what's that? So
I tried one out at the UK Guitar Show, and it was just sublime.
Yeah, I mean, you were probably there when I was there, because I was hanging around there the entire time. So this is my, this is one that I've currently got. This is one that's Stu, who is the S in SMP. His last name is Powick, so he's doing the PRS thing. It works for them, so I guess it works for him. But yeah, this is one that he was just building anyway, like to try stuff out. He wanted to make a Floyd Rose guitar. It's got some really odd wood choices on it and things. And then he was like, well, while I'm building yours, do you want to borrow this? And he subsequently sort of let me have it, which is really cool. But it's a really weird guitar. Like it's sort of like super stratty, obviously. It's got like a cutout, which is on the, it's called the Orpheus model.
That's it, the Orpheus.
Got a cutout here. When I showed it to my mum, she said it looks like a lopsided lady's bum. Which I thought was really funny. So like you can sort of see it, like this. If someone sat down,
so.
And like their butt crack. Sorry, Stu. But I did say it. My mum said it. It's fine. And it's got Floyd Rose on it. We've got a bare knuckle. Who's the Rebel? Yeah, Rebel Yell.
Rebel Yell
in the bridge. I can never remember his name. Steve Stevens.
Yeah.
And we got VH2 in the neck, both bare knuckle, because obviously bare knuckle is fantastic. And then 5-way blade on that, so you're getting some split positions and things like that. Bird's eye maple neck, fingerboard, sorry. And then on the back, we've got like a 5-piece construction. But it's actually not, like typically when you see a dark wood, it's often Wenge or rosewood.
Mahogany or something like that, yeah.
Yeah, so we've got flame maple in the middle. There's obviously the light bits, but then this is actually ebony.
Ah,
Like you don't typically make necks out of ebony because
yeah,
ebony tends to crack. But this hasn't, and it's really, it's obviously just like a weird one-off guitar. I think it's really unique. It's really cool. But I've been doing a lot of tracking with this, and honestly, they are the most solid guitars. Which is obviously why I work with them. You know, why I'm working with Stu. And
in terms of your preference to when you're recording and playing, do you like prefer like a position 4 or position 2? Or do you just tend to just kind of mix it up?
It is what it is, you know. I'm one of those annoying people that swaps pickup like halfway through lines because I like the articulation of the bridge or whatever. Oh yeah, sorry, I should mention that the back is mahogany. It's like reclaimed old mahogany, like really old. I think it's quite rare, but it weighs a ton. Like it's not light. But yeah, so in terms of the pickups, like in general, I'm spending a lot of time on the bridge. I really like the bridge, and in particular for leads as well, because I don't actually play with the most enormous amount of gain.
It's very pristine, your sort of sound.
Yeah, kind of, I guess. But you can get away with like being on the bridge, and it's not going to get all horrible. And I think the combination of the mahogany with this particular pickup as well just really comes out in a really nice way. You've got all the articulation there. I like the bite that you get out of it, because otherwise you end up with that ooey sound, you know, like from the neck.
It's not too because you can tend to have like that sort of brightness that can sometimes kind of be a bit too harsh on the ears, but it's actually quite refreshing.
Yeah, it's really I'm going to use the word dialed in on this guitar. It feels really nice. And then sort of I'm swapping between those as we go, depending on the part really, because you know, I try not to stick to one thing. As you know, I'm open-minded as I possibly can be.
It's always good.
But yeah, that's one of the ones I have at the moment. So the one that's currently being built for me is my guitar. It's going to be slightly different. It's going to be an Orpheus shape as well, but we're going for like a roasted maple neck, entirely roasted maple, stainless steel, 24 frets. Then it's like a emerald, like bare knuckle emerald in the neck, and a holy diver in the bridge.
Nice, classic 80s sort of style.
Yeah, because I like that sort of thing, but they also clean up quite nicely as well.
Yeah,
like I'm not a fan of those mega high output humbuckers, because you sort of sometimes lose a little bit of articulation with them, particularly when you dial it back. And I'm not doing like all out metal, so it makes sense. And then instead of having a Floyd Rose, I'm going to go for a Goto 510 drum that's fully recessed, so it's essentially it operates more like a Music Man.
The Ernie Ball style ones.
I've got a JP6 that I've used for a long time, and the trems on those things are fantastic. So if we can approximate that, you know, with what I want out of a guitar as well, that's going to be great. And then there's going to be mahogany, and then a lovely blue flamed maple top, and it should all come together nicely. And black hardware, except for the bridge, which is going to be silver. So like, it's got a bit of bling, but it's going to be covered by your hand most of the time. So when you see it, you're like, oh yeah,
that would be gorgeous.
Yeah. So that's the first one I've got from Stu at the moment, which I'm very grateful for. I've done like everything I've been tracking recently has been with that. And then this is the other one that's let me borrow, which you probably would have seen if you were hanging around at that booth.
Yeah, I think I've seen that one. I have to see it if I can find. I'm sure I've got a picture somewhere of the UK Guitar Show, and you'd probably be like your ass crack in the middle of in a picture or something like that.
Actually, there's a really good video from a guy, Andy the Guitar Geek, I think. He's a guy with a big like fluffy afro sort of style thing. He does videos for Thoman, and he interviewed Stu just while he's like going around with his rig and stuff. I'm in the background talking to Key from Dover, and I don't know what I'm talking about, but I'm obviously very animated in it. And I look really weird. I'm pulling all these weird faces and like describing things. Like it's really funny. Like at one point I lean backward and I'm like, you can't see what I'm talking about. I'm just in the background, just doing all this weird stuff. So
when because I didn't originally realize that I had met Phil. I think I had gotten to speak to Phil through Rabia, because Rabia put me in the way of Phil, and I was chatting to Phil. And he'd mentioned about the UK guitar show, and I said, "Oh, I went to the UK guitar show." And I said, "Where was you at?" And he said he was at the Victory stand.
Right.
And I was just like, "Oh yeah. I think I remember." And I brought up a photo, and it was just like a picture of his Chapman resting against, and you could just see him bending over and his underpants showing. And yeah, there's your.
There it is.
Style one.
I borrowed the green one for a while as well, actually.
Yeah, I played the one that looked like a pint of Guinness. I can't remember the name of that one. That was the one.
It's like a walnut top icon.
Yeah, that's the one I played. But no, you're not quite in the photo.
I'm not in that. Yeah, so like the majority of cleans and stuff that I've been tracking recently for the new EP has all been on this. And one of the things that everyone should have, and I didn't realize I needed until I played this
style.
I don't like I don't in general like T style guitars, but I like this. And the main reason for that is it's not going to destroy my ribs, because it's actually put a cutout on the back.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few like ergonomic choices which make it, for me, a lot more preferable to like a Fender. So I used to own a Fender Telly, and I play it on like, you know, function gigs and things like that, and my ribs would be black because like I'm a fairly skinny dude and my ribs are just like sticking out, and there's no cutaway on it. But this guitar's actually got a 4-way blade for the pickups. So in the back position you've got bridge, and then here you've got the two of them at the same time in series. I have to play it in order to work out exactly which one it is. So you've got them in series, and then you've got them in parallel.
Yeah.
You've got them, and like I think it's the parallel position. Like, it sounds amazing. Like for just it's so good. Which is why Stu, you're not getting us back anytime soon.
Sorry, Stu.
No, I have to give it back at some point, because it's like one he built specifically for himself. But yeah, it's really cool, and I'm very grateful that he's let me borrow it. But yeah, those are the two SMPs that I have at the moment. So I've been using SMP guitars. They are fantastic.
We were talking about effects, but we got sidetracked.
Yeah, so using those, and then into the Dover for like preamp stuff. And I've been messing around with different forms of overdrive in front of that. So I got really into, I really like Eric Johnson and the Eric Johnson style tone. One thing that I've kind of gotten into is the Echoplex style preamps. Obviously Eric Johnson using those. They've been really, really useful. Particularly on cleans, actually. Like I've been using, there's a company called Chase Tone, and they do something called the Secret Preamp, and it's basically an EP3 preamp, but it has control over the voicing between bright and dark and middle. And that's been really useful as well, in terms of like changing just the character of things ever so slightly to make it sometimes a little bit more pleasing, particularly on cleans and things, if you're using like an amp that's designed for high gain. And then obviously every type of overdrive under the sun. Like the Plumes is really good. Been enjoying that. I bought an MT, like a Metal Zone Craft. It's good.
Like have you tried using that in the effects loop?
I have, and that's why it's good.
Yes, because every time I see it on like pedal boards of doom and people are going on about the Metal Zone, and I always comment, say, try it in the effects loop, not in front of the amp, put it in the loop and thank me later. It's amazing.
It's I think it's one of those cases where, like particularly actually to bring this full circle with the GAC comments, some people don't entirely realize why or where you'd use certain things, and then they'll just shit on something unnecessarily because they don't understand, which is fine, whatever. But yeah, and then I've been using a tube driver style overdrive as well, you know, the BK Butler sort of things, for that Eric Johnson style tone. I found I didn't really like it, actually, but that's fine. And then in terms of effects and things, in general, favoring like a plate reverb and ping pong delay, those are always like pretty standard. I love those.
Yeah.
But then with regards to the harmonizer thing, been setting up some weird signal chains there, where the harmonizer is ducked So when you're picking your guitar, the harmonizer isn't active, and as the guitar volume decreases over time, because after the initial transient,
the harmonizer
comes in, and so you can get like a really pure note held with sustain by using a compressor, and then the harmonizer comes in, and then you can build like a chord afterwards. Essentially, it's like this reverby trail sort of thing. So
almost like running a really wet signal, almost.
Yeah, kind of. It's a really odd thing. Like there's a track on my new EP when I finally release it, which uses it quite heavily, or at least for one section. And it'll be really obvious what I mean by that. When you hear it, you'll be like, "That's what he was talking about," and it's cool. Like I don't want to
sound quite interesting.
It's cool. I spent a while dialing it in, and it's so it's like all stripped back, and there's like loads of reverb and stuff, and you've got the initial. It's sort of like playing the harmonizer as its own instrument, controlled by the level of compression going on.
Which harmonizer are you using for that?
I'm actually using the built-in one on the Kemper. So I've got that in front of the Dover, and then I'm just going straight into the Kemper, just using the effects and straight out again.
Yeah.
So I've got that integrated in. It's a really odd setup, but it works. And the problem is I haven't found anything that is able to do that in terms of like a physical pedal sort of thing, which is a shame, because I'd love to have the option to do that in a non-digital space, or like more control over certain things. But
I would have thought one of the like the Electromonics Hog or something like that would have probably been of the analog equivalent, so to speak.
The problem is you can't control, because the Kemper has a feature called ducking on it. Yeah, and it's really difficult to integrate that sort of thing into other signal chains. And I haven't been able to find a way that would suit my needs properly. So if anyone's listening and they want to build me it,
Jam Pedals will probably be able to do something like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, hit me up, hit a man up. let's make some cool pedals. But yeah, so in terms of effects, I'm pretty sparse with it. I try and avoid outrageous guitar, like things like the Rainbow Machine or something from.
I really want one of those. I
did want one, and then I tried one out for a video at GAK, and I was like, "No, I don't need it." But it's more for me. Like I can't integrate it into my setup properly. But there's a friend of mine, Sam, from a band called Orchards. He uses like a Pog and the Rainbow Machine to great effect, making like sort of pop, indie, math rocky kind of music. It's really hard to describe. They're really good. Worth checking out. So I think he's one of the only people that I've noticed that actually uses a Rainbow Machine and uses it well.
I know Devin Townsend uses it.
Yeah.
And he's crazy for all the ambient soundscapey stuff.
Have you ever been on a website called Nail the Mix?
I've not been on it, but I've seen a lot of people using it, and because I think Spirit Box have been on there, Devin Townsend, and I think he had Singularity or Genesis on there. I think
he's got Genesis on there. Yeah. So I signed up for it recently because I've gone really hard on the home recording thing and all of that sort of stuff, and I downloaded like the Periphery stems and Devin Townsend stuff and a bunch of things that I personally would like to see what's going on and what their raw audio is like. And I got the raw audio for Devin stuff, and the amount of layers and weird stuff going on in Genesis is like, I was just sat for about an hour and a half just going through certain bits, just being like, this is nuts. How did he write this? This is insane. Like
have you listened to his podcasts?
I think I listened to one. But I need to go back
on his one of his recent ones. I think it was when he was talking about deconstruction, and he was saying about his new album that he's got coming out, and he said all he's done is just like record like a real kind of like a blank slate and to send it to people and just go do what you want, and that's going to be. So I'm quite intrigued to see how that's going to come out, because Empath was just all over the place when I listened to it. I really enjoyed it.
Yeah, it takes you on a trip for sure.
Yeah.
I think for me, like with Devin Townsend, like Kingdom, when I first heard Kingdom, I thought it, like such a good example of good songwriting.
Yeah.
Like it, because you know, it just stays on that one note for most of it. And then when he finally changes the chord, you're like, oh yeah, that's what I needed. I'm like, when I first heard that, I was like, he's a genius. And then I found out he shat in Steve Vais' guitar case once. And now I'm just like, yeah, fair play. Not that I dislike Steve Vai, I just thought it was really funny.
I didn't realise he lived in Birmingham in the 90s as well. He was living in Birmingham.
Really?
Yeah, well, technically just outside Birmingham in a place called Wednesbury, and he classes it as a shithole, which it is. But I think it was when he was doing the Wild Hearts gigs.
Right. Wow.
Which would make sense. But yeah, I didn't know that. I was like, no freaking way.
That's really cool.
There's another instance on his podcast, and he was talking about when he was doing Ocean Machine. And the record label that was going to originally sign him up was saying, you happily release the album, but we don't want you to put out the song Bastard because it just doesn't fit in line with what we want to produce.
Right.
And this is at the time when Devin was having to mail stuff to and from the record. I can't remember what record label it was off the top of my head. And he basically sent them a box that he'd shat in. And they opened it up, and it was just him having shat in a box. And it's like, only Devin could do that.
Jesus. Man, yeah, don't mess with Heavy Devi, man.
I love Devin so much. I was really good. He was playing with Devin Townsend project a couple of years back in Birmingham by Leamington Spa, and I was originally meant to go, and I work in the hospital, and I got called in on the night because I had to go and work in on the night. So my mate went without me, bastard. And he met Devin after the gig, and he's got a photo with Devin. I was like, no! I was so hot. I still don't let him, like, we were still good, obviously very close friends, but I still go, you bastard.
You can't forgive him.
That's the one. Man. Yeah.
Like, I've got something kind of similar to that. Like the cello player who's just done stuff for my new EP. So we did a session at Middle Farm Studios remote. And she's part of an orchestra called the Parallax Orchestra.
Oh, yes.
Who've done stuff with Tosca.
Yeah, because they did the Fire by the Silos of Tosca.
Yeah. But she hooked me up to go and see Alter Bridge because they were playing with Alter Bridge at the Royal Albert Hall. This was years ago, and she hooked me up with a ticket to go and see Alter Bridge from the orchestra pit, as in just like get me in as like a stagehand or something. And there was a bomb scare on the train on the way up from Brighton up to London, and I got stuck at Gatwick and I couldn't go. And then, it turns out it was like an amazing gig, and all the footage from it looked amazing. And I was like, just sat at home, just like on my train back, just like so upset.
Yeah, same sort of thing. You just like, I'm never going to forgive you for that, even though it's not her fault. But it's still
it's just like, but we were looking back because I hadn't messaged her in a long time, and then I messaged her to see if we could do like cello parts and stuff because I've written all the stuff that needs cello in it. And I just scrolled back through the messages, just as you do when you haven't spoken to someone. Oh, what was the last thing I sent you? It was a picture of me really excited on the train because she was like, "Are you on your way?" And I just sent her a photo of like, "Yeah," like really excited. And then I was just like, "Oh, that's just such a tragic photo," because I was so excited to go and then it never happened.
Yeah, we've all had that one gig that we've never been able to go to just because of something. It's like Black Peaks. Every time I've tried to see Black Peaks, something has happened. There was the first time, again, I got called into work, so I had to miss the gig then. The second time round, Will had his operation. And then the third time round, I got cancelled because of COVID. I was like, for God's sake.
It's just, savage. Man, COVID
sucks.
It sucks. I'm supposed to be on tour. It's fine.
I know.
It's fine.
I haven't played a gig since February of last year.
Yeah, same. I haven't played a gig since I played my friend's wedding, and that was in between the 2 days of Birmingham Guitar Show last year. And he was getting married in Birmingham, so I went to it on the Saturday, and then went to do his wedding overnight. Slept in an Airbnb, and then turned up the next day all sweaty and like grossed out and hadn't showered on the Sunday.
I'm sorry you had to experience Birmingham.
Well, to be fair, it was a wedding venue, so it was quite nice. But the rest of it was okay, I guess.
Yeah, where the UK guitar show's done, it's not the nicest of areas, I'll be honest. I mean, I'm quite thankful where I am in Birmingham. I'm in like more of the rural part in the countryside, so it's not too bad, but it's still, yeah. When people give Birmingham a rough name, I'm like, yeah, I can kind of see why.
Oh, man. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I'm currently living in Salisbury, which is like Southampton way, and it's so boring. Like, so I kind of wish that it was a bit more interesting, like there was more going on. But then,
Sophie Burrell's down that way as well, isn't she?
Potentially, I don't really know anything about her at all.
Because I know she's Southampton-based, ridiculously good guitarist.
Yeah. I don't know anything about her at all, to be honest. But,
I will have to. I'll forward you her Instagram, because some of her stuff is ridiculously good. And I look at her PRS guitars, I'm like, oh.
Is she the girl with blonde hair?
Yes.
I think I know. Maybe.
Yeah.
You have to forward me.
I didn't know because if he's in the same area, whether you'd worked on bits and pieces.
I live like a recluse, so probably.
I think we all do at the moment, anyway. To be
honest. Well, even pre-COVID, I lived like a recluse, so like that weirdo who lives in an attic and
only comes out in the day in like certain times of the day for food.
Yeah, exactly. And the rest of the time he's just fiddling around with his mics, just like, oh, I've got to get it perfect, and writing weird prog.
Remember, kids, prog doesn't pay.
yeah. That's why I do the videos for GAC.
No offense, GAC. No offense.
No, lovely people. I'm very grateful.
So we're approaching the end of the podcast, because I'm already aware we've spent an hour and a half talking already, which is. I
don't feel like I've given anything of value. I've just been rambling at you.
But that's the whole point of this podcast. So.
Fair enough.
So it's just the part of the podcast where I ask the guests the same 3 questions, so we can always find out something interesting. And I have a feeling I might know the answers to this first question, but let's go with it anyway. So your desert island rig, you get 1 guitar, 1 pedal, 1 amp, no budget. What are you taking with you?
And this is the one that you reckon you already know?
I reckon you're probably going to go your SMP guitar. You'll use the camper for your pedal, and then you'll take it over for the amp.
Not quite. I would use my Strat. I'd use a Klon overdrive, specifically the Womp Autumnus, probably. And I would use probably. Am I allowed to take a laptop? Is that part of the rig? Because if it's running like.
I've let other people use like modelers. I think I'm going to have to allow it.
Because for me, the desert island rig would be something I could record on as well. But yeah, so probably something from something really mega versatile. So potentially one of the neural plugins, like the Corey Wong plugin. It'd be a Klon style overdrive, and my Strat. So none of the ones you thought. Weird.
I bought a Klon in
brackets
from Wish.
Oh, nice.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing.
I'd be really interested to see how, because I went down the Klon rabbit hole briefly, where I was like, wow, what's so good? And I was looking at schematics and things.
Well,
and I ended up going for the...
I showed it to Tim on the chat after we finished yesterday, because he asked me about it as well. And I opened it up and I showed it to him. And he's amazed at how good it was for 30 quid inside.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn. I've got the Ryra clone.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have one of those, and then I have the Tumnus as well, because they both do different things. Like the clone is like a direct clone essentially,
Yeah.
and then the Wampler Tumnus, I've got the deluxe one, so it's got different clipping
Yeah.
options on it.
I did look at that, but I thought 30 quid.
But yeah,
on Wish.
£30, yeah, £30 on Wish. That's it. Yeah,
I can't go wrong, and it's actually been bloody brilliant. So
yeah.
I would highly recommend you try and pick one up.
Oh man, I'm gonna have to now. But yeah, so that would be my rig. It would be Strat, Klon Style Overdrive, and potentially the Corey One plugin, because I really like playing, like, it covers those jazz fusion things.
Yeah.
And I really love Motown. Nobody knows this because I do all that like instrumental prog stuff where I'm like playing heavy stuff. But I love Motown stuff and things like that. And it's just not the music that I write at all, and it's not what I want to do musically, but I just enjoy it so much. So if I'm stuck on a desert island, I want to do something I enjoy. Therefore, those choices, I think.
That's pretty good. I can't knock you for that. It's a good choice.
Yeah.
Secondly, what are you listening to at the moment on Spotify or your preferred streaming platform?
Sure. It's pretty eclectic. So recently, I've been listening to Lyle Workman, like I mentioned before. He's got a fantastic album recently. I've been listening to Sigrid, been listening to Aurora, and a little bit of Gajira.
I've got like the new tracks that are out.
I haven't listened to any. I've been going on a deep dive of the old stuff, to be honest.
Anything?
I never got into them until what was The Art of Dying, I think. That one. Yeah, that's
I quite like Flying Whales.
Yeah,
I love how the drums kind of differ, like sound really different from the guitar and the timing. I think think it sounds really good. That
it's like clever metal that's not relying on, you know, things that have already been done, and I really like that, and the production's fantastic. So
the pick scrapes in that breakdown, I was just like, oh.
They do some good stuff. But yeah, so basically mostly pop and like weird orchestral sort of metal, and it changes on a day-to-day basis. Tomorrow will be completely different.
Yeah, mine's all over the place at the moment as well. It's just a bit of everything, literally.
That's a good way to be.
Definitely. And lastly, where can people find out more about you on social media?
I'm going to be really just Google my name. Yeah, it's Thom Pankhurst, but I spell my name Thom because I'm edgy.
Edgelord.
Yeah, I'm an edgelord. It's got an H in it. An edge spelled EH. Yeah. Yeah, so my name's Thom Pankhurst. You can find that. I have music out on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. I think I mostly use Instagram because it seems the most friendly place to find things. But I have long form videos on YouTube of me playing with my band, doing my own music and things like that. And at the moment, I'm currently finishing up recording so that I can finally get this new material out, because it's a year late because COVID. And I think initially I was supposed to go over to the States to record, and that's not happening anymore. But we're still working remotely. So yeah, so when that comes out, keep an ear out, although you'll probably be bombarded by well-placed adverts.
Absolutely.
Yeah, hopefully if it goes right.
We were at Guitar Geeks. When I say we, I will happily share that out for you. And
that's very kind.
That's what we're here for, or I'm here for. Yeah, same difference.
When you say we, you're referring to yourself as the royal we, right?
Yes. We, yes.
Yes, we.
We. We being the editor, producer, director, and host.
Yeah, that's like me with my music. It's like, yes, I'm the principal songwriter, guitarist, bassist, recording engineer, producer.
Man of many talents.
Yeah, or none at all.
Jack of all trades, master of none.
Master of none, yeah. I'd like to think my guitar playing's okay, but
it's definitely okay. It's better than mediocre.
Oh, thanks, man. I'll take that. I'll put that on my grave. It was better than mediocre.
Tom, it has been an absolute pleasure having you for the last hour and a half or so. It has been
thanks for having me
absolutely
on.
divine.
Yeah, thanks for the good chat and allowing me to ramble incessantly and not answer any of your questions directly.
It's the best podcasts are the ones that just flow. That's it, you know.
Sure. Yeah.
As I say, it's been an absolute pleasure having you.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. And now you know how my students feel, or how when I've been teaching on private things, I'm just like, they're like, wow, what about modes? And I'm just like, about everything possibly. So apologies to anyone who's made it this far. Thank you for listening.
It's been an absolute pleasure, and wish you nothing but the best of luck with the new album when it comes out. I'm sure.
Yeah, likewise with the podcast.
Thank you very
really
much.
Nice.
Thank you very much.
Cool.
So thank you, Chaps and Chapettes, for joining in with us on another edition of the Guitar Geeks podcast. My guest has been Thom Pankhurst. All the links for his social media, YouTube, Spotify, etc., will be in the comments section below. Make sure you go and check him out. I have been Josh Castle. You can catch me at the Corona Mortis on Instagram. And until the next time, we will see you again very soon.
Bye.
I'm just going to leave that in there at the end.